Good morning, everyone. Welcome. May 27th. How did that happen? We're at the end of May. But a nice sunny, sunshiny day. We have Mayor Bailey joining us online as well as Member Brown, and the rest of us are in the council chambers. Spencer's taken attendance already, and we might as well get into the meeting. And so for that, the agenda's in front of us. We've had a chance to review it. Is there anything that anyone would like to add at this time? Seeing none, we'll ask for someone to move. Thank you, Mayor Bailey, and seconded by Member Boudreau. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. At this time, is there anyone that has any pecuniary interest to declare? Okay, seeing none. Our minutes from our last meeting of April 22nd are in our package. I'm sure we've had a chance to before we do our minutes, my mistake, how could I forget? We have a delegation here today with Brian and his team, and they are going to review the work that's being done on the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan. Both myself and Acting Inspector McTaggart have been part of the committee that's done some work, but really, the truth be told, the staff have done the bulk of the work because they've got some great engagement and some great tools and things that they've been doing. And so we asked Brian to come in today to just give us as a board an overview of some of the work that's being done because it is time for it to be updated. And while it's the county's plan, it kind of intersects with the work that the O.P.P does and some of the issues that we touch on. So Brian, we'll ask you to introduce your folks and give your presentation.
Through the chair, good morning. Thank you very much for having me here. I want to start by thanking, the presentation, there we go. I want to start by thanking all of our wonderful community partners for their hard work and dedication through this process. As you can see, we engaged a wide variety of community partners to capture the successes and challenges that are occurring in our county. Regarding the last plan, I just wanted to provide a high-level overview as to the status. Of the 38 goals, we were able to fully meet 7 of them, 26 of the initiatives remain ongoing, and 5 goals are not met. A quick note in regard to the ongoing unmet goals. Many of those goals are ongoing as the complexity of the work takes many years to meet, and these goals tend to evolve as the community needs evolve. In terms of unmet goals, they've been reworked to be addressed in the next version of the plan, and they will be addressed where applicable. I'm not going to go into the timeline overly much, but we did engage. So we started this conversation October, November. We engaged with the O.P.P and the Chair Haley to start discussions about what the plan is going to look like, who we're going to be engaging, and how it evolved. We did in total hold 4 community meetings, and public engagement started in March and was open for a month and a half, and we'll talk about more about the engagement shortly. So what we heard from the community, we had 164 online print and phone surveys completed. We had 60 participants show up at 5 pop-up events across the county. We had 68 participants at 4 focus groups discussions, focusing mainly on youth, seniors, newcomers, and mental health. And the project was promoted through Engage Brant, print ads, social media, posters, community organizations, and school networks. In regards to the public engagement, here are what we found across the top priorities. So under mental health, wellness, and substance use supports, the top findings identified that mental health and services are a critical need for youth. 53% called for more affordable counseling options, and 52% of respondents were unaware or unsure how to access local mental health supports, with the top barriers being long wait times, cost, shortage of professionals, and transportation access. The community had suggested that we embed services in rural hubs, schools, and workplaces, use libraries and community centers as access points, increase awareness via public education campaigns and centralized directories, and support peer group and support reach for early interventions. In terms of youth empowerment and opportunities, job training and employment programs were identified as a top priority, with recreational and after-school activities coming shortly after it. Outdoor and nature programs and mental health and wellness supports were the top needs. The gaps that were identified is lack of youth-friendly spaces, especially in winter around the county, limited access in rural areas and affordability barriers, over-focus on sports excludes youth with other interests, and youth needs in life skills, employment readiness, and social engagement. They suggested free activities like gaming nights, cooking classes, and drop-ins, programming in rural communities, mental health and leadership education, and opportunities for youth civic engagement and mentorship. Under unhoused supports, 87% cited affordability as the top barrier. 71% noted a lack of affordable units, and affordable and stable housing is identified as the greatest need. Financial and employment supports were the top supports required, life skills and education, and food and healthcare access. In terms of connected and safe mobility, 68% were concerned about rural transit gaps. Road safety is a major theme, speeding, poor lighting, and lack of crosswalks. 44% raised road safety concerns, and 41% wanted to see better cycling infrastructure. The suggestions were to expand rural transit access, increase pedestrian infrastructure, and increase speed-reducing tools like bump signs and crosswalk lights. In terms of community belonging, residents love Brant's small-town feel, nature, and they feel safe. They do have concerns, however, about the growing isolation, fast growth, and loss of connections. The top priorities being more community events and festivals, outdoor nature-based programming, neighborhood meetups, volunteer opportunities, and family-friendly programming, with the engagement theme being a strong appetite for intergenerational programming. Newcomers want small, inclusive spaces to connect, and the O.P.P. highlighted the need to build trust in the newcomers through outreach. The recommendations were to host accessible social gatherings and cultural celebrations, increase visibility and participation in opportunities for newcomers and youth, and invest in storytelling and civic pride initiatives to unite old and new residents. In addition to public engagement information, community partners did provide data. The data is outlined on page 14 to 24 of the plan. Overall, we did see an increase in demand and usage for many services within the community. This can mean many things. There is more needed, more people are open to receiving servicing, or more people understand that services are available to them. As well as some organizations receive funding to increase capacity to deliver services. So we also saw a small decrease in much of the crime-related data provided by the O.P.P. So the following goals align with the county's commitment to advancing the objectives outlined within our membership to the UNESCO Coalition of Inclusive Communities. Additionally, each goal reinforces our dedication to the principles and priorities established in the multi-year accessibility plan. The goals are designed to be broad to ensure that they can be responsive to the community needs over the next 5 years, and that changes that occur within the various levels of government funding opportunities and with the community. So moving forward in the 2025 iteration of the plan, there will be 5 prioritized risk factors that will be the areas of focus. That being mental health, wellness, and substance use supports, youth engagement and opportunities, housing and unhoused supports, connected and safe mobility, and community belonging. In terms of mental health, we're working to raise awareness about mental health by running campaigns that challenge stigma and make it easier for people to find the help they need. We're also training county staff so that they can create a more accessible and trauma-informed environments. This training will be extended to our community partners as well. A big focus for us is reaching out to youth and families in rural areas who might not have the same access to supports. To help keep our bases safe, we're adding sharp spins to all county-operated buildings. We're also expanding access to harm reduction tools, including a formal sharps handling policy to support what we already have in place. We're teaming up with partners to improve access to nutritious food and help reduce food insecurity for people of all ages. One example of this is the Eagle Grounds Garden Project, which brings people together and encourages healthy living. And by offering affordable access to county facilities, we're helping nonprofit groups deliver essential services to even more residents. And we're continuing to take steps to support those affected by intimate partner and gender-based violence. This includes public education campaigns, improving transportation options, offering free space for rural access to supports, and creating joint programs with community partners. We want to build strong connections across agencies so that the whole community is better equipped to respond. In terms of youth empowerment, we're supporting the formation of a formal strategy that lays out how we support and engage youth in the long term. It's being built in collaboration with staff and the community so that we can make sure it truly reflects what they need. We're collaborating to offer free workshops that focus on what matters most to youth, like building job skills, learning tools to support mental health, and finding ways to get involved with their community. We're looking to work with community partners to establish a youth symposium that will focus on building leadership skills and connecting young people with real jobs and volunteer opportunities. We're creating more ways for the youth to have a voice in county decisions. Their feedback will directly help shape our future planning and make sure that young people feel like they're meaningfully included. And youth have told us they want more than just sports, so we're supporting the recreation team to offer more creative and inclusive after-school programs, especially in rural areas that give them safe spaces to connect. In terms of housing stability and unhoused supports, we're looking to shift the conversation around homelessness by educating the public. We hope to break down stigma, making it easier for people to ask for help and for the community to step up with the appropriate supports. In partnership with Wilfrid Laurier University, we're providing training to county staff and council so that we can better understand the realities of homelessness and support people in our community in a more meaningful way. We're continuing to support the shared services agreement with the City of Brantford. Our focus isn't just on shelter. We're looking at the bigger picture, tackling the root causes like mental health and substance use, and beginning to actively explore ways to increase affordable housing across the county. This includes working with community partners, making smart use of public lands, and ensuring everything aligns with what's set out in our official plan. In terms of connected and safe mobility, we're going to continue to explore opportunities to expand or collaborate with our neighboring communities to enhance the way the services that we provide. We're continuing to build safer streets using real data to see what's working and what's not and what we can do better. Residents have told us they want neighborhoods that are safe, walkable, and easy to get around. We continue to explore opportunities to grow support around this goal. Cycling was a very large request in the engagement. We're looking at ways to expand our cycling network in a smart, strategic way. And we'll be running education campaigns to help people understand that all transportation options are available to them and how to use them. For community belonging, we're starting to lay the groundwork for a more inclusive community. This would be our first formal diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, and while still in development, the aim is to guide how we approach equity across multiple municipal services. We're looking at ways to make our communications more accessible to everyone, whether that through multilingual resources or other supports, so that no one feels left out of the conversation. In terms of welcoming resources, the idea is to create a consistent and accessible Welcome to Brant kit for newcomers, something that meets a variety of needs and helps people feel more at home as they settle in. We're exploring ways to highlight local stories and celebrate shared identity through initiatives like Brant Belongs to You campaign. It's about building a stronger sense of belonging for everyone. We're going to continue to support cultural events and outreach efforts that bring people together, celebrate diversity, and offer opportunities for shared learning in our community. We're looking at how to support the enhancement of our age-friendly programming so older adults stay engaged, supported, and connected to the community. And a newcomers hub is being explored as a possible one-stop location where people that are new to Brant will find helpful services, supports, and community connections. So now in terms of the evaluation, governance, and reporting, we're looking to build evaluation into everything we do, looking at what's working, what's not, and how we can keep improving our programming and services in a meaningful way. As we move forward from planning to action, our advisory committee will evolve into more of a working group. The goal is to keep the diverse voices at the table and help keep things moving forward. In the landscape of human services, one thing we do know is change. So we're setting up regular reviews and keeping an eye on legislative updates to make sure the plan stays relevant and is responsive to the new priorities in our community. And public engagement is not a one-time thing. Ongoing consultations, surveys, and focus groups will continue to guide the plan as we go because the community input is essential to make this work meaningful. So in terms of next steps, we've finished our community partner review last week. Currently, our senior management team is reviewing and editing with the deadline of the 30th to provide feedback. The final design goes to our communications team to have it graphically prettied up because they do fantastic work. We are aiming to present to council June 24th, and then it needs to be posted for public and provincial review for June 30th. And with that, that is the plan. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Through you, Thanks for this. A lot of work's been put into it, and it's, as you say, not all the goals were met, and you understand why, and I think, as you say, it's an ongoing thing, so I'm glad to hear that. A couple questions. Do we know what the demographics of the responders were?
Through the chair, we do have a detailed report of the demographics. Is there something specific you'd be interested in?
Well, yeah, I'm curious, like with the youth empowerment and opportunities, was that directed strictly at the youth, or was there, I'm going to say, parents involved with that as well? Because there's two different perspectives, right? What the youth would like to have and feel they need and stuff like that, but also from the parent point of view who might see a different side of things, right? So I'm just curious, were the youth questions specific to an age group, or were all questions open to all respondents?
So through the chair, it was open to any age group through the Engage platform. Of that, I believe it was 4 under 17 identified. So a majority of the goals were through parents, but I will add a caveat to that, is we did hold 2 specific youth engagements where we were at Silaps one evening and Burford Community Center, and we held open engagements for 11 to 17-year-olds. And we had a really, really good turnout, and it was a lot of good back and forth conversation with those groups, talking about what they want, what they need, and kind of to drive our decisions.
Okay, that's good to know, and I'm glad it was that all questions were open to all, because you get a better perspective, I think, if you do that rather than just point it. So, thank you.
No problem.
The demographics in terms of like the communities that participated, I think will also be in the, because I asked that same question when we were at the committee meeting. I'm just curious what the spread of respondents were between all the different communities in the county, and it seems like a pretty decent representation of where the population, obviously, you know, a good part from Paris, a good part from St. George, a good part from Burford, and then a good smattering of folks from throughout the county. So that was good to see as well. It wasn't heavy weighted to one particular community or another. Is that fair, Brian, to say?
Through the chair, yeah, the spread was very representative of population density. So of course we did see a larger response from Paris. That's just based on population alone, but it was a fairly even separation between all the communities.
Member Boudreau?
Yeah, 2 questions, and this was related to the access at the beginning of the presentation. One was around shortage of professionals. So my first question, I'm just trying to understand, what does that mean? Is that psychologists, psychiatrists, et cetera, et cetera? And then the other one was transit was also a barrier to access. And knowing we have Brant Transit, call a friend, to get a ride, I'm just wondering, is that a service that's already taxed out and that's really what the problem is? Or are we talking about more rural sort of bus routes or something? So if you have any comments on either of those, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. So through the chair, in terms of professionals, I think it's a provincially wide problem where there isn't enough access to social service workers, psychiatrists, psychometrists. So that's very much more at a provincial level, but we are feeling the impacts here of not having those services here. Again, the province will do what the province will do, and hopefully within the next 5-year span of this plan, we will see expansions where we have access to more professionals in our community. In terms of transit, I do know that within the 5-year, and again, because this is a 5-year plan, we're kind of scoping out what we can do within the 5 years. I know there is conversations within our transit division of expanding rural transit networks to include potentially fixed routes and other options, but it is a barrier that is just clearly identified as a need.
Just to follow up on that, since, you know, that committee, Member Boudreau, like it had Woodview and CMHA and SOAR, and I'm missing a whole bunch, but there were several service providers around the table in the mental health space, and they all are concerned about the lack of funding or the funding cuts that have been made potentially to some of their services. And they all kind of echoed what Brian just talked about in terms of the community's concerns about the wait times to get professionals to help. Whatever range that might be, therapists, psychiatrists, whatever, or even understanding where to go to get help, whether it's in the county or in the city, and how do they get there, and how do they access those supports, and how is it that they don't wait for a very long time. And then, of course, Acting Inspector McTaggart's side of things, they deal with folks in crisis, and so how do we make sure that we, you know, lower the crisis levels and help support people more on a proactive basis. And I think that's the challenge that everybody around the table kind of talked about, was how do we have those supports in place so that we don't have them in crisis mode and then involve a policing side of it where they may, which is unfortunate, right? So I think, yeah.
Yeah, and I think as a follow-up, we see it as a board every month. One, to your point with McTaggart's report in crisis, but I think we also see it in the referrals and the lack of take-up on referrals. I think one of the reason is it's going to take too long. I'm in crisis right now. Well, I can get an appointment in 6 months. Isn't that great? I'll tackle it on my own, et cetera. So I think there's a number of things related to what we see and discuss monthly that are in this. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think, as Brian noted, it's a provincial challenge that other communities are facing as well, for sure. Any other questions or comments at this time? Member Boudreau?
Sorry, not a question, but just a comment. There's a lot here. So I got some extra reading material, thanks. And I'm looking forward to it, but I wouldn't be surprised if I come back with some additional questions. We're just wondering how I might direct any sort of additional follow-ups that are related to what we do with this board.
In terms of what we do with it, or what the actual content of the report itself?
A little bit of both. So potentially clarification, and secondarily, obviously, if I think there's something related to this board, I can raise it at the board level. But more just clarification, I think, more than anything else.
Brian, now do you want to?
Through the chair, I believe, would it be Spencer? Questions go through you? Yeah, so I would, if you have questions, concerns, filter them through Spencer, and then we'll delineate it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And just, I guess, because I didn't realize this when I was first on the board, and this was new 5 years ago, the province has mandated that each community have a community safety well-being plan. It is the county's plan to approve. So 5 years ago, we put together the first plan, and of course, things have changed a lot and come through a lot of different things. And now the province has also said we need to, all the communities across the province need to update this plan. And so that's the work that we've been doing, and it's, as Brian mentioned, it goes to council for review and approval. But we'll see it here in terms of how it's progressing and how things are rolling out, because it does intersect with the things we talk about around our table. So I think the plan, maybe I'm looking to all three of you, but the plan eventually will be to have more regular updates here at the board as well, in terms of the rollout of the community safety plan, how some of the strategies are working, how some of the tactics might be deployed. I don't know if any of the rest of you want to, or Melissa, yeah.
Thank you to the chair. I think that is something that we are looking forward to, is establishing a two-way communication stream with this board, because the information that you have and what you're seeing in terms of trends is really important for us to be aware of on a regular basis so that we can be responsive. And then much like we also want the opportunity to be reporting back on a regular basis and keeping you up to date. So we are looking to establish more formal connection on that two-way communication.
So we'll be able to see more of Brian and his team here after the plan's approved, and then we'll see more of a regular update. But I think for us, if you look at the plan and as you digest the plan a little bit more in depth, there's so many of those points that touch on some of our strategic points as well, whether it's youth engagement, community safety, mental health. I mean, last plan, traffic was very specifically a topic, whereas now it's more mobility and I can't remember the exact title you gave it, but it's more encompassing of a number of things, not just specific to traffic and speeding. That doesn't mean that we aren't still focused on some of those safe road options, right? So I think it gives us an opportunity here to really hear how we can divert some of these things from being a policing issue. That's hopefully the goal, is that some of these proactive strategies then prevent people from getting into crisis situations, and then hopefully that allows us to use the resources in other ways for Acting Inspector McTaggart and his team. I hope that makes sense. It's clear as mud sometimes, but I think it all comes together quite nicely, and yeah, we'll wait for the news to hear that council obviously has to review as well and discuss. Any other questions or comments on this before we wrap this part up? Anybody online? We're good? Okay. With that, thank you very much, everybody, for coming in. Really appreciate that and all the hard work. I know Acting Inspector McTaggart and I have sat on a few of those committee meetings, and it's been a lot to pull together in a very short, compressed amount of time, but you guys have done some good work, and we look forward to hearing how things roll out. Thank you. Have a good day. Yes, Councillor Pierce.
Madam Chair, I move to receive the report.
Thank you very much. Seconder for that? Sorry, Member Stryker. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we move on to item 5, the adoption of the minutes from our previous meeting, which I had started earlier by mistake. So our last meeting was April 22nd. The minutes were included in our package. Are there any errors or omissions that we need to note? Member Stryker?
Through the chair, I just have a question about word choice on section 11.1. Further discussion is held with regard to tax receipts being issued to those who attended the event or vote.
Should be the event.
Good catch.
Good catch.
Actually, Madam Chair, we couldn't hear what Member Stryker was saying. Sorry.
She'll repeat that again, sorry.
My apologies. It was just in reference to section 11.1, the third paragraph, and the sentence ends with vote, and I believe it needs, the intent was the word event. Thanks.
Okay, with that change and not seeing any others, we'll have a motion then to approve the amended minutes, please. Member Stryker, and seconded by Councillor Pierce, thank you.
Yep.
All those in favor? And that's carried, thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Okay. Let's go into our detachment commander's report, and I'll ask Acting Inspector McTaggart to go ahead and deliver that report for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start the report off with our motor vehicle collisions by type. For the month of April, no fatalities. We had 11 non-fatal personal injury collisions, 40 property damage collisions for a total of 51. Year-to-date, we've had 1 fatality, 41 personal injury, 230 property damage. I know in our last report, I did talk about our January report where I mentioned we had a fatality in that instance. I've since reviewed the data, and that collision has been updated to reflect the parameters that we classify the fatalities under. It no longer applies to that collision in January, so hence we have reverted back to the 1 fatality for year-to-date, and hopefully that satisfies the board's explanation as to why that number stands at 1. Moving along to our criminal code and provincial statute charges. Criminal code non-traffic 21 for the month of April, criminal code traffic 14, Highway Traffic Act 434, liquor license 1, other violations 32 for a total of 502 charges. Year-to-date, criminal code non-traffic is 110, criminal code traffic 70, Highway Traffic Act 2131, liquor license 7, and other violations 146. When I look at the traffic-related charges breakdown for the month of April, 272 of those traffic charges were a result of speeding, three seatbelt charges, 9 impaired drivers. In year-to-date, we're at 1,164 speeding tickets, 15 seatbelts, 48 impaired drivers, and 16 distracted driving. So those charges are a result of several campaigns we've had so far. In the month of April, we had the Easter long weekend traffic campaign, which focused on what we call the Big Four, which are those areas I just explained. So our members continue to proactively target those Big Four as a detachment as well as a provincial initiative. Moving along to violent crime. We've had 1 sexual offense for the month of April, 6 assaults, firearm-related offenses. 5 offenses that fall under the other category involving threat or threat of violence, for a total of 12. And year-to-date, the assaults/firearms-related result at 28, 21 offenses involving other, for a total of 57. Property crime, we've had 5 break-in-enters for the month of April, 10 offenses involving theft over $5,000, 8 involving theft under $5,000, 1 possession, trafficking, stolen goods, 7 frauds, and 8 mischiefs. And I know over month, we continue to see the theft over 5,000 category constantly on the rise. And I know I have reported in the past that it has to do with theft of our motor vehicles that we're seeing not only within the County of Brant, but across the province of Ontario. So moving forward to next month's report, I do have a good news story to share with the board regarding some of the proactive investigations we're taking on in this category. So look forward to next month's report on that. And year to date, like I said, we're break-ins are at 15, 41 for the theft overs, 35 for theft under, possession, trafficking, stolen goods 2, frauds 42, and mischief stand at 13 for a total of 158 year to date. Drug crime, we did not have any drug crime for the month of April.
I found this on the web.
Pardon me.
What did you find?
Moving ahead to the public complaints, we had 2 conduct complaints for the month of April for a total of 4 year to date. And then referring to our daily activity reporting patrol hours, again, our numbers are up for our cruiser patrols, which speaks directly to our service delivery, which I spoke to before. Again, our motorcycle patrol, we have 3.5, and then foot patrol 74.25, as well as 3 hours of school patrol. Youth charges, we have none. No youth charges for the month of April, and none year to date. Mental health occurrences, 22 for the month of April, and 114 year to date. And those occurrences by type are broken down. 5 were attempt or threat of suicide, 2 family disputes, 14 were classified as strictly mental health, and 1 result of a missing person. Overdose occurrences, unfortunately for the month of April, we did have 1 fatal overdose occurrence. And that's just, like I said, the 1 year to date. Referrals to victim services, for the month of April, we had 48 offered, 15 of those were accepted, and year to date, we have 209 offered and 66 accepted. And as you can see, we are progressing year to date over the past years. Again, it's a system that we're trying to improve on with our delivery of that services to our members or in the public. And I will share some of the local staffing updates from Brant Detachment. So during the month of April, Constable Ben Zara, who started here as a recruit, transferred to Leeds County Detachment, which is classified in our East Region in the Brockville area. That is where he's from, so he has moved back with family and support him and his spouse in their endeavors. PC Zara has been replaced, and the member will be arriving in May. Again, there was 2 public complaints I reported on. Regarding our community mobilization officer, which is PC Murphy, again, we talked about the 22 mental health related calls for the month of April. Our AMSORT worker responded to 4 of those crisis calls, and 16 were referral to what's called Coast through SOAR. Total time spent in the emergency room with apprehension was 10 hours and 35 minutes times 2. The mean time in the emergency room with apprehensions was 1 hour and 45. And then the total time in the emergency room ranged from 52 minutes up to 3.5 hours. Constable Murphy completed the final report for our 22 to 25 Community Safety and Policing grant, which has since completed, and we have applied for a new one for 25 to 26. She attended a focus group for the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, and she also assisted with several media releases and posts because she is cross-trained with our Constable Buchert to release those media. And myself, as well as several members from the detachment, participated in a dodgeball game at the Paris District High School, which we got our butts kicked. But it was a great event, a lot of support, and it was great to be part of that. The group with the students was well received by both sides. And then also, PC Murphy attended several meetings and workshops. Moving ahead to our youth school resource officer, PC Vitalis. So for the month of April, 45 occurrences involving a variety of occurrences with youth. No charge as a result of that. PC Vitalis attended a career day at Assumption College, as well as Burford Elementary and St. Teresa schools to deliver the O.P.P Kids program to 3 of those classes. And then again, he mentioned in there about the officers attending the Paris District High School for that dodgeball game. PC Vitalis also provided an online safety presentation to 3 classes of grade 7-8 students at St. George German School and 3 classes of grade 7-8 students at Burford Elementary. Also delivered an online presentation to approximately 70 parents at the Regional Catholic Parent Involvement Committee at the Brant, Holloman, Norfolk Catholic District School Board. And finally, PC Vitalis attended the Children's Safety Village Brant to administer a Girl Guides event in partnership with MTO and Grand Erie Health Unit, delivered 3 community helper presentations to schools, and attended an Easter event as well. Regarding our media officer, 24 media releases were put out to the public, 52 to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Again, I mentioned in our meeting, the Easter long weekend campaign was upon us, which we targeted those big 4 areas that I spoke about in our report. And our traffic management unit, so from July 2021 till April 30th, a total of 81,201 Part 1 charges were laid, 360 Part 3 charges, and 29 criminal charges. For the month of April alone, 193 Part 1 charges were laid, and totals for 2025 are 1,327. Moving along to Crime Stoppers, which also is held by PC Dean McIntosh at Brant Detachment. 10 Crime Stoppers tips were given out to Brant Detachment, 47 to Brantford City, and 6 to Six Nations, for a total of 36 to the O.P.P. Brantford City is 181, and 16 to Six Nations. So barring that, any questions? That's the report.
I really miss having that context written so that you can review it ahead of time. And I know that you struggle with that too, but being able to hear it is great, but then to digest it and be able to discuss it is difficult. And I really wish there was a way we could advocate to the O.P.P that and I know Councillor Pierce has also talked about this in the past too, when this moves on to other folks to read, they don't have that stuff in there as context. And I just really appreciate that color that you add to some of the work that you're doing, and I just wish it was able to be included, and it's unfortunate that it's not.
Madam Chair, I've shared the concern of the board with our organization, but I'm just one voice of many that are speaking up to what some of the respective boards are asking for, and I don't know what the future will look like other than to continue to advocate for some of the needs that you expressed to me.
Well, I know that I participated in a little bit of a O.P.P focus group on behalf of Zone 4 and some of the other zones that have O.P.P detachments, so maybe I will express this concern as well on behalf of our group to just add more voices to it. I just think it's an important piece of information in total that you provide. If we looked at just, I guess my concern was if we looked at just like the youth interactions, for example, just in this report, you'd say, well, there's not really a lot happening. But then when you talk about all the things that PC Vitalis is doing and is out in the community with all those interactions, there's 45 occurrences with youth, but none of them turned into charges. Great news. But not having that context, I think you would think just reading this, you'd be like, oh, there's not really anything happening on the youth side of things, which is so wrong, right? So I do think we need to somehow continue to advocate for that. I understand the analytical side of it, but then there's the context side of it. And I know you would agree with me, Councillor Pierce. Questions, comments? Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and, you know, you're absolutely right. The context of what's talked about isn't there, and especially I would assume people would like to hear about the dodgeball game against the police. Like, as a student, having a dodgeball game against the police, that'd be pretty neat, I think, and nobody's gonna hear that. Well, they might hear it now, but anyway. Yeah, a couple questions if I could. So, just let me go through the report here, I'm sorry. You kind of alluded to it, and I had made a note on it in regards to the theft over 5,000 and stuff like that, and you did state that, you know, that's mostly because of stolen vehicles and stuff like that. And you also stated the fact that it's not just our problem, and we know that. It's province-wide, it's probably country-wide, it's probably, you know, one of the biggest things around the world or whatever. But for us, is there anything that the province or the feds are doing in order to help us get ahead of this? Like, has there been any suggestions or workshops? As I say, it's not just our problem, and I'm just wondering how far up the ladder has this gone for, as I say, provincial help or federal help to have a, you know, maybe a task force, and maybe they're doing something different out west or out east or here in Ontario or who knows what. But I'm curious, have there been any talks at that level of government to assist policing services on a situation that's affecting everybody?
Through the chair, Councillor Pierce, this is a challenge that police services across the country are facing, to your point. The challenge we need to focus on, and the federal government is aware of that, is CBSA and the ability to better police our exports out of the country, specifically when it comes to the CCANs and the vehicles that are being placed in those CCANs and taken across the world to other countries and then sold there on a black market. So I know the federal government as well as the provincial government are alive to that issue and are working with CBSA to better enforce those parameters. Operation 3D is also an active role we're taking not only in Ontario but across Canada to focus on illegal drugs, which then opens the door to many other criminal acts as well. So as an organization, as well as a service, police services across the province as well in Ontario, I think we have a lot more work to do, but I think we're on the right track as well.
Right, and I appreciate that, and I was never in doubt that the police services themselves are on track because there's communications between them, but I was just trying to understand if the province or the feds are helping or doing their thing, anything they can.
I believe they are. Okay. Specifics, I don't have those for you. Okay. Other than what we're doing here locally for the board's purposes, we are doing everything we can with our community street crimes unit to facilitate as much traction as we can get with some of these investigations. They're very hard to track, especially when a lot of these rings are coming from outside the county, especially the GTA is a big conduit to where the vehicles are going, and working with our municipal counterparts to better track and facilitate the investigations that we're seeing locally that will obviously open up if we can get a little piece of the puzzle to service the other municipal partners we're seeing as well across.
Thank you for that. Okay, a couple more if I could, Madam Chair. On the page for the unfounded, can you just remind us again what other means?
Through the chair, Councillor Pierce, that is a category that I am struggling with myself, and I have reached out to the individuals that create this report to try to get some clarification on other. I do not have an update on that, okay, but I am working very hard to try to source that so that I can provide more of a fulsome report to the board.
Okay, thank you for that. And then, where are we here? As far as patrol cruiser hours and stuff like that, you know, if you look at that, we're going up and which is a great thing. You know, there is talk out there that the O.P.P is more visible, which is great. And if you can put it into context, you know, for 2025, the 1473 hours, that's over 61 days. That's over 2 months of patrol. So that's pretty good as far as I'm concerned, because that just shows that, you know, you are out there. And as I've said to many people many times, just because, you know, I'm speaking to the person here, just because you're there doesn't necessarily mean a police is going to be at that point in time. So, but it does show that there is patrol out there, and that's the request of, as you know, a request of a lot of constituents, and the facts here show that. So thank you for that. I had one more here, bear with me. Yeah, as far as the referrals for victim services and stuff, I know I've spoken about this before. I'm curious, when it gets to the referrals accepted, and as Member Boudreau said, that it's a different, you know, different thing. We can offer, it doesn't always be accepted. Now, I don't know if it's public knowledge or whatever, but is there any way to indicate, like, for example, referrals accepted, 11 to 16, 100% of the referrals were accepted, which is fantastic. Is there any breakdown of, you know, was that one referral or was that 20 referrals? Is it possible to get that, or is that information that we, as the public, don't necessarily have? We just have it as the 100%? Because I'm trying to, where I'm going with this is I'm trying to understand, is most of our referrals to adults, or is it youth? I'm just trying to understand if there's a breakdown in there, if there's any possible way to get those numbers. Like, what does 100% represent? Is that 1? Is that 5? You know where I'm going?
Through the chair, Councillor Pierce, I do believe the age group is classified near the bottom when it reflects the number of percentages of that age group that is accepted through. Does that help answer that at all for you? I'm trying to understand your question.
No, so I understand. So we'll take 11 to 16, for example. 100% of the referrals were accepted, but I'm trying to understand, was that 1 referral? Was that 10 referrals? You know, like and I don't know if that's information that we can be privy of. I'm not sure. But I'm just curious, like, what does 100% mean? Does that mean, you know, was there 500? Hopefully not, but you know where I'm trying to go here? Is that 1 referral, or is that 10 referrals? I'm just curious as to not necessarily the percentage of referrals accepted, but how many referrals there were.
So when you refer, I do believe I understand. So just referencing April, for instance.
Yep.
15 of those 48 referrals were accepted. You're curious as to what age group is the highest age group in accepting those referrals?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, like, you know, like it says there, like 17 to 25, there was, you know,
Right.
33%. So does that mean that there was 3 and 1 of the 3? You know where I'm going? I'm just trying to understand if there's any sort of breakdown in numbers. We always get percentages, but we don't get actual numbers, so to speak.
So Councillor Pierce, just to make sure I understand, of the 15 that were accepted, you're just curious to know how they broke out, not just percentage-wise, but number-wise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. If that's possible.
I can look into it.
Okay.
Councillor Pierce, and get back
Perfect.
to you in our next meeting.
Okay, perfect. And then one last one, Madam Chair, if I could. You spoke of the campaigns we have, and then there was one on Easter and stuff like that. I'm curious, and I know it's to the discretion of the officer at the time, but when you do these you know, focus campaigns, we'll call them, is it, in situations like that, is it cut and dry? Like, there's no warnings. You get somebody within that campaign, they're getting, you know, obviously, if they do something that warrants it, they're getting charged. There's no warning. There's no, hey, you know what, you know, you didn't have your seatbelt on. Don't, you know, make sure you do it next time. That type of thing. And I know it's a discretion of the officer, which is good. But I'm just curious, when you have these focus campaigns, is it okay? Today there's no grace. If we catch anybody within this campaign, they're charged.
Through the chair, so every provincial traffic campaign we run, we have an operations plan that accompany that plan or that campaign, and we try to build on years past. So, for instance, with the Easter long weekend, there would have been an operations plan that would have identified those areas were in past. Say, for instance, we laid 100 traffic charges, and out of those 100, maybe 50 were speeding. We try then to increase that number moving forward. To your point regarding 100% enforcement versus education. That's not the case. Discretion is still very much a factor in a member's decision to lay an offense or not. But we do encourage our members, because we are running a specific campaign, that we try to, as much as educate, but also follow up with enforcement. So I don't know what to say other than members still have the discretion, but we encourage our members to focus on the enforcement piece, because we are specifically targeting this campaign during this period of time.
Okay, and just one final statement, Madam Chair, and I'm glad to hear that. You know, even though you're, like you say, you're there for that specific reason or reasons, but it's still, you know, there could be circumstances, I'll call it, to each individual situation, and I'm glad it's still, the final say is still with the officer. So I appreciate that, and as always, thanks for what you guys do.
Just to follow up to Councillor Pierce's question about referrals. So generally, we trend around a third of the referrals that you offer are accepted. So 209 for 2025 so far have been offered, and only 66 have been accepted, 30.8%. What resources, blue sky, what resources are needed to help increase that number so that people feel that they can accept the offers of help?
Madam Chair, that's a hard question to answer, because in the moment, emotions are high, typically. And I believe the presentation to the individual to meet those needs is important from our service. At the same time, it depends on the support network that the individual has already in place that I think will drive a lot of these numbers. So those individuals that struggle with supports obviously will take what we offer as a resource, but those individuals that are already established and have a strong support network, either through family, friends, whatnot, or are maybe already set up in a counseling type service where they're providing regular updates and supports there. There's probably a very large parameter as to why only 30% of those individuals are accepting of additional supports. And I wish I had a better answer than that. I would like to think that we are doing as much as we can from our side to follow it up. And our domestic abuse issues investigator, PC Cotter, is very much entrenched in this support when it comes to our victims. So not only is there supports offered by our front line, but also followed up with Detective Constable Cotter as well to ensure that we aren't missing anything.
Thanks for that context. Councillor Pierce?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I could just add something to that, and I know I've asked, like in council meetings when these helps come in and they speak to us as council, I put it to the fact of using Police Services Board as an example. You know, if everyone took the help, do you have the space? And they said they do. So that's a good thing. The fact that, you know, if we are in a situation where everybody accepts, there's places for them to go. So I don't think that's a hinder, but it's just you know, I just wanted to add that context.
I think that might depend on the time of the day or the year or the circumstances, but let's hope that that is the case. I just have Mayor Bailey online first for a question or a comment, and then we'll go to Member Stryker and then Member Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me? Is my mic on?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. On Sunday, I'm sorry, I had a homeless person show up on my front stairs here in St. George. He had been robbed, and they had taken all his ID, and they had burnt his tent, and he was in pretty bad shape. I'm not sure what I didn't know what to do. It was a really funny situation. So I called the numbers I have for SOARs and things like that, but obviously it was a weekend, so they said, you know, if you want information or if you want help right now, call 911, which I didn't think was appropriate. And I hope that they changed their message, because then I called the police. And I just wanted to let you know that your dispatcher was amazing. The lady who answered your phone was very sympathetic and very helpful. And then the two men that you sent over to help this man at my house were amazing too. They were very respectful and compassionate. They treated him wonderfully. He felt comfortable. He was very nervous, the homeless person, and they took him away. I don't know where they took him, but he certainly was willing to go with them because they were very kind. And of course, I gave him water and made sure it was warm enough. It was a cold day. I don't know. Should I have done anything differently there? I don't know what I'm sure that now people, when someone comes through St. George, just say, well, there's where the mayor lives. That's how he ended up, I think, on my steps, which is fine by me. But I think I need to know what to do a little bit more. It all worked out very well, and I want you to know that your guys were amazing. But it might not have if he had got violent or whatever. He was very, the homeless man was very kind and very quiet and very embarrassed that he had nothing, including his ID. Is that what I was supposed to do? Is that a good thing to do, or is there a more direct way to not involve so many people?
Through the chair, Mayor Bailey, you did exactly what we would anticipate a member of public to do based on what you were faced. I know moving forward and speaking to Brian's presentation, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, as a collaborative group and a community partner, moving forward with that plan, I anticipate to work with the group to bring forth some education and training to some of our local individuals in our communities on how to deal with some of these vulnerable populations that we're seeing. Because far too often, individuals, I'm going to use, say, for Tim Hortons, for instance, is a very popular public place where individuals in crisis may show up, or some of our vulnerable populations, because there's nowhere else for them to go. And then the staff and public there are then faced with some of the challenges that they've never experienced before. So I feel our community safety and well-being plan is going to be well positioned, and I hope to support that plan by offering some seminars, free seminars and training to some of our members of the public as well as our BIA to empower and allow those individuals that are going to be potentially dealing with this marginalized population and what they potentially can do moving forward. But to your point, sir, you did everything I would expect you to do based on what you experienced.
That's a great one. Thank you. And thank you for handling it the way you did. It was great.
Okay, Member Stryker?
Thank you. Through the chair, I just have a question about the referrals to Victim Service Agency by year. You mentioned that a number of people who don't accept, it's because they already have supports in place. Could that be provided even in your explanation, your context explanation afterwards, just so we have a feel? I know, like there definitely are people who have mental health crisis, but then get stable and they're working with doctors and so yeah.
Through the chair, Member Stricker, so are you looking for numbers of individuals that are not partaking in the referrals and what sources they have in place?
Specifically, like the offer, I think it's awesome that you had 48 incidents and 48 offers were made. That's great. Of those 48 offers that were, like they were offered, you had connection, could it be noted declined because has supports elsewhere? Just so we get a sense, like, if there's someone who has a crisis event that the police need to assist with, but they are actively working with doctors, sense to that number, essentially.
I can try my best to see whether I can source that data. I can't promise you I will be able to, but I'll take in consideration and hopefully report back. Thank you.
Thanks. Member Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the inspector. Recently, I've had conversations with several individuals who have raised concerns, again, about the visibility about ATVs and their presence, and it's increasing yet again. Two of them have commented on in the past when the visibility of the O.P.P conducting patrols was there, they noted that it made a difference. Their comments were that they're hoping to see these again and possibly an increase in the patrols for both the protection of the general public at large and farmers and their crops as well. Just a comment, I noticed that there's no ATV this month, and I know that you've got a lot of things to consider, but it's just something that several people have raised concerns, and we've dealt with this in the past as well.
Through the chair. Member Brown, your comments are timely. Next week is our ATV Awareness Week campaign. So I can promise you we will have some active patrols moving forward. Acting Staff Sergeant Kootenays is as part of our syndicate working group to establish a regular ATV schedule between us, Norfolk, Haldimand, and Oxford to support one another in some of our challenges in getting those ATVs out in the public on a regular basis. So hopefully moving forward, we'll have a schedule in place that we'll be able to make those patrols regularly and hopefully do our best to support the needs in the community that you're experiencing.
Thank you. I'm sure that will make a lot of people very happy.
Yes, through you, Chair, to the inspector. I wanted to circle back on the public complaints, which we're now at 4 for the year, which is a significant increase over the year. Now, I recognize we're obviously spending more time in the cruiser. I recognize we're dealing with more mental crisis issues, et cetera. I'm just looking for any insight you might be able to give us on why we're seeing the increase that we are as compared to the previous 2 years.
Through the chair, Member Boudreau, unfortunately, those specifics are protected by FIPA and providing feedback to the board. So I can't speak specifically on the complaints other than you can see we classified it as conduct. So through LECA, the Law Enforcement Complaints Agency, which is overseen by O.P.P now, complaints are part of our job. I hate to say that. Not everyone agrees with what we suggest or what we do. And I can say from a detachment commander perspective, we have an excellent group of individuals at our detachment that a lot of times these conduct complaints are not followed through to the end when it comes to a member being charged under the Act for a disciplinary action. A lot of times this is mitigated through our professional standards unit. And sometimes a conversation between the complainant and our officer is all is needed to rectify that conduct complaint. So I wouldn't say our members are doing anything wrong, other than that they're becoming engaged with members of the public and not everyone sees our point of view. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the detachment commander's report? Checking online? Nope. Okay, so thank you very much for that. We'll have a motion then to receive the detachment commander's report for information. Member Brown, thank you for moving that. Seconded by Member Boudreau. Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. We will move into 8.1, the false alarm statistics report, and we'll ask Cindy to deliver that for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the report today shows the false alarm stats year over year, April to April. There is a slight decrease overall year to year of overall responses of 5.7%, which is good to see. You can see that the total amount invoiced in 2025 to the end of April is up in comparison to the previous year. And that's as a result of the bylaw being updated and the fee schedule not being reset until an individual property has 2 years since the last at-fault false alarm. The communications campaign is starting, and there is some information in the latest edition of the Brant Dispatch for education to the public around that. And there is a media release that our communications staff are just finalizing to get out. We've been working with O.P.P as well on getting our letters finalized and making those visits to the repeat offenders. And that's my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great to see it having the intended effect that we discussed. Any questions or comments? Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll comment if I could. And yeah, I noted in the report there, like if we look at year-to-date 2024 compared to year-to-date 2025, that's a huge difference, which is good. I guess this is one of those things where, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if they're, you know, if they're paying penalties for multiples and stuff like that, and then we see that number going down, maybe they're finally starting to learn, which is great. And I appreciate the effort that's gone into it from all parties to educate, because I think that's, you know, as we've said many times on this, that's definitely key. And then, like I say, this is a good news story that's trending down, and hopefully it'll continue to do so. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll echo I appreciate the work that county staff and the O.P.P staff are putting into this to collaborate and to educate. And I mean, these are just resources that we can put other places at the end of the day, and it's just important that we work together on it. So I do like what this report's showing and the communication effort, so that's good news. Any other comments, questions? Thanks, Cindy, for doing that. If not, then we'll have a motion to receive the report, the false alarms report as for information. Councillor Pierce, thank you. Member Stryker will second it. All those in favor? And that's carried. 8.2 in our package, just some context here. We have a report about our challenge coins. For those of us that were previously on the board under the old version of things, we had a challenge coin criteria, and because we're now a new and completely new board, we just have to consider how we bring that forward, whether we want changes or whether we adopt it as is. We've got a report here that we will be reviewing, but just for some context, that's why we're bringing it forward, is that it was the old board's criteria. It can be the new board's criteria, but we have to formally bring it forward and do that because we're now under the CSPA and not the older, we're a detachment board, so that's why we're doing that today. So there's a report here that Spencer's put together. I don't know, Spencer, if you'd like to review anything with us?
Through the chair to the board. Essentially, this is just the same criteria previously adopted by the past Police Services Board. Just looking to see if there's anything this board would like to change or just seeking feedback prior to adopting the criteria.
Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and it seems to be the word of the day, context, and I'm glad you added that context, because when I was reading this, I'm going,
Why?
this is what it is. We're already doing this. So if at the appropriate time, I would put a motion forward that we keep it as it is.
Yeah, and just to make sure that both the two new members, Member Boudreau and Member Stryker, don't have any questions about what they are or what they do or anything, but we do have an inventory of coins that still we have that have been, we struck the original coin and have quite a few of them still, but we've been keeping up to date with the detachment in terms of awarding those after someone's served their year. And same thing with board members. After we serve our 1 year, we would get awarded them as well. They've been well received. They were designed by the members of the detachment, and they've been well received. I know Acting Inspector McTaggart's been delivering those to the recent recipients, and they come on behalf of the board. Like we have a letter that goes with them, and they get delivered to each of the. We have done them in person at different events when time permits, but in some cases it's just easier for them to be distributed. So I wanted to make sure that, yeah, Member Boudreau?
Yeah, just one question. It's really to the longer-term members of the board, which is, have we ever been in a situation where we've had a complaint where someone felt that they should have gotten it and they didn't, or someone got it and somebody else felt they shouldn't have received it. I'm just looking for if there's been any history of complaints related to the process that we currently go through.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there's been nobody complaining. There's been people requesting them. There's a lot of people that collect challenge coins from all over the place, and these are not for sale. So we don't sell them. We don't distribute them unless we agree on that. Obviously, to officers and members is one thing, but then if there's somebody else deserving of one for some exemplary reason that we've indicated here, that would be something that we would discuss as a board. So yeah, we've had requests to give them out to folks that want to buy them, but we've denied those. They're not intended for trading or, anything like that. They're more of a what's the right word? It's help to build morale and ground Brant in terms of a place to serve. And we now have officers that have gone to all different parts of the province, but they now can carry Brant with them wherever they go and help boost that morale. And the challenge coins are quite a thing well, we have the history here, the law enforcement side, military side of things. There's a lot of stories behind why, if you don't have one in your pocket, what happens, but we won't go there. Anyways, I hope that answers your questions.
It does, and no further questions. Thank you.
Yep. So if there's no further questions, Councillor Pierce, would you like to move that we adopt this report?
I would, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, and seconded by Member Brown. Okay, all those in favor? Thank you very much. All right, so then, since we've done that, we've had a request on item 9 of our agenda. So outgoing Ontario Association of Police Service Board's Chair Patrick Weaver, he's finishing up his long-standing term with that organization. And the OAPSB has put out a call, as we have in our package here, and they've used ours as an example in their pictures. They put out a call to each of the boards that may have challenge coins to give one in recognition for Patrick's leadership. And so it's up to us now to discuss whether that is in line with our criteria and whether we feel that makes sense. If the board chooses to support that, between myself, Member Brown, and Member Stryker, we're attending the conference so we can deliver that to the OAPSB, and we can go from there. So I'll open up the floor for discussion, comments, questions with respect to the request. Okay, pretty straightforward. Member Stryker?
Being new to the board, is there precedent for this?
No, this is the first time we've had a request like this. From any outside group or internally within the county. We have awarded one coin in the past to a retired O.P.P officer that was involved in a pretty tragic accident with his partner, and he's actually passed, but we were able to get the coin to him before, and it really meant a lot to him. We haven't gone back in time to all the retired officers from Brant, just the currently acting one, but that was one situation where we did feel it was important to award that. With respect to Patrick Weaver, he has contributed a significant amount of time on behalf of all police service boards to the province and to the organization. And so I feel, I just feel that he would be someone that would be deserving based on our criteria, and I know that it would be appreciated by him as well. He is a chair as well of his board. I'm going to say Essex Way. I'm not sure exactly which board he serves with. So I feel that it would be in line with what our criteria would suggest. Member Boudreau?
Yeah, just based upon that, and of course, having recently read it, I'd agree it would be sort of 6.B. But based upon 6.B, it would suggest we would need a member of the board, not the OAPSB itself, but a member of this board to make the recommendation, or a recommendation from the detachment directly first, and then we could respond to that based upon the policy as I read it.
Right, so that's what the motion would be today, is that we then would choose to award that coin on behalf of our board to Patrick.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
it
thinking?
just, the way it was, I thought it was actually member of the board. as opposed to the board itself would have to make by either a member of the County of Brant, O.P.P, or the Detachment Board. Okay,
Are we good?
we're good.
Okay. So I think Councillor Pierce, you were going to move that,
Sure.
or maybe you weren't, I don't know. I can pick any of our Mayor Bailey, will you second it? Thank you. Any other conversation then around awarding that to Patrick? Okay, all those in favor of that motion? Okay, that's carried, thank you.
That's a no-brainer.
Spencer will let them know that that will be forthcoming. Okay, so let's move into section, so in our package, there's 9.2 and 9.3 under communications. It's not, so the 9.2 is a memo to the mayor and the clerk and the CAO about the evaluation, the changes in their municipal policing unit and the financial services unit and how they're restructuring some of that. That's really kind of more on the operational business side of things between county staff and the O.P.P in terms of how the billing and the model works, but this is for our information. And then 9.3, this one is specific to looking at the cost recovery model that we have in place in terms of how billing is done for us. And so it looks like they're doing some work to do a review of that cost recovery model and what that might impact us down the road. And they're going to be soliciting input from different municipalities in June 2025. So that's around the corner, and hopefully there's some engagement there so that we can provide some feedback. So those are just for information at this time. I also just wanted to note for context, since we're talking, context is the word of the day. Acting Inspector McTaggart did talk a little bit about some of the grants that have been finished or that have been applied for. So under the old board, the board was actually a signatory to those grants and applications and reports. And now under the new board, we're not. Now it's just specifically between the county and the O.P.P to work out all the details. So under the old board and under the old act, we would have been the chair on behalf of the board would have been a signatory to any of the reports that PC Murphy would have submitted, any of the financial claims, still working with the county, of course, but that would have been on behalf of the board. And now with the new act, they've tried to disentangle because it's the province delivering the money and the O.P.P. So now it's specifically the O.P.P and the county. So the board's not involved in any kind of overview or, of course, Acting Inspector McTaggart's going to let us know about the programs he is applying for and the work that they are doing. And of course, we want to make sure we get as many of those grant dollars in place, but we aren't as involved in that backside process, just for context. Mayor Bailey?
I would just like to make a motion, Madam Chair, to receive 9.2 and 9.3 as information.
Thank you. Seconded by Member Boudreau. All those in favor? And that's carried, thank you. So let's move into 10, section 10 then. We have Councillor Pierce, updates from yourself yeah.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I would love to have reported on our photo radar numbers, but as everybody's probably aware, it was removed, which is unfortunate, but we'll continue on with that. Through you to, I was asked by Councillor Miller to bring up something in regards to in the Burford area. Apparently there's been a number of plaques taken off Cenotaph and some other areas. I guess the Burford Legion has approached him quite upset, and the Burford Historical Society. We're just curious as to, A, are you aware of this happening? And B, is there anything that you can shed on this that might, that we can circle back to these folks to say, you know, hey, you know what, we're aware of it, we're doing this, or we have this information. My understanding, as I say, there was plaques that were taken off the cenotaph and a couple other places. I believe potentially the cemetery by the arena. I don't have all the places, but I was asked just to bring that up to see if you were aware of it and go from there.
Through the chair. Thank you, Councillor Pierce. I'm not aware of the specifics of the investigations. I'll maybe defer to Acting Detachment and Kootenays if you have any other information that might be able to assist in relaying back to those individuals that have raised the concerns.
Yeah, I can look into it. Yeah, I'll look into it. I don't have any knowledge firsthand, but I will do some research and get back to them.
If you could, that would be appreciated. And I know in discussions with Councillor Miller, it was discussed that I think and this is kind of on the council side as well, but he was suggesting that potentially the city of Brantford has something now that for these places that people take steel and stuff like that to have, potentially parameters where they have closer look at what's coming in and that sort of thing. That's something that we'll discuss as a council, but I don't know if it's something that from policing services, is this something that, if you think of the, copper and stuff like that, and people are, rummaging air conditioning units for that type of stuff. I'm just curious, is that, are we aware that that's a large issue in our area?
Through the chair. Councillor Pierce, yes, so our scrap dealers that typically receive a lot of this miscellaneous material, it's my information that anything that comes to their attention as suspicious, they will report to us.
Excellent.
So I've seen that from other areas I've worked as well. The relationship with those scrap dealers is important, because if they accept something and pay the individual and it turns out it's stolen, they in turn lose the money that they paid out as well. So it's in their best interest to source some of those items that are coming in to better understand whether that's something that should be brought to the police attention. And that's my knowledge, is that is happening.
Okay, that's good news. Okay, I appreciate that. Other than that, Madam Chair, that's all I got coming this way, unless the board has anything for me to take back to council.
Anything for Councillor Pierce? Great. Hopefully the camera situation gets rectified and
It will.
set up so that it doesn't happen again. And yeah, and I see that there's signage in place for St. George, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. So in terms of the OAPSB, the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards, Zone 4, thank you, everybody that came. I really appreciated Brant's support. That was awesome. We had a really good turnout, considering it was the first meeting, people coming and going throughout the meeting, of course, but everybody's being busy. But I think the online has shown that it can work versus people having to drive all over the zone. The next meeting will be September 10th in Woodstock. It's an in-person collaboration with the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. And then after that, the next meeting will be online in November. We're trying to get some speakers lined up now, but we had a speaker on the forensic nursing program at Brantford General, which I thought was really interesting, and didn't know that they provided some of the services that they did, and so that was interesting. And then we had a really good conversation with what OAPSB is doing and what David Tilley with the Inspectorate of Police is working on as well, who formerly was known as a zone liaison, I think his title was. Now everything's changing a little bit, and we'll get to learn more about that. So thanks to all of you that joined. I really appreciated that support. We're trying to rebuild that back, and my understanding is that some of additional training they're hoping to deliver through the zone meeting formats as well for us as board members. More details to come. I'll segue right into the chair update. Lots going on, as you heard today, with the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan and the work that's been happening there. So that's great news. Special Olympics, just a reminder, that's coming up July 10th, 10th to the 13th. And we're obviously a supporter of that. And we can be out and support the athletes. And I know a number of groups and organizations have supported the games themselves coming up this summer. Excuse me, and I really wanted to extend a thanks to all the different organizations that have stepped up and businesses that have stepped up to support the athletes in the Special Olympics games themselves. We have the conference coming up next week in London for those of us that are attending. Pretty packed if you've looked at the agenda. It's a pretty packed 3 days of training and seminars, so hopefully we'll be able to bring back some stuff for those of you that aren't able to attend. And of course, I've got that bug in my throat now. A couple last things. Just a little plug, St. George Lions Club is doing a bike rodeo in collaboration with our O.P.P partners on June 7th to support the bike safety. And then lastly, our dispatch newsletter. So last time we talked about the dispatch newsletter in the fall, we had Canada Post. This time we're talking about the dispatch newsletter, and we're talking about Canada Post yet again. Oh, thank you. So what we've decided, Acting Inspector McTaggart and his team have put together another great edition of the dispatch with lots of great information. The county staff have done a fabulous job of laying it out and making it look very informative and readable. But Canada Post has given us a little bit of a uncertainty. So I think the decision right now is we're printing off 500 copies, I believe, of the dispatch. We'll have copies for the next meeting for everybody. We're printing off those, and they'll be available at the detachment, county offices, various places, but they will not be mailed. Just the uncertainty of Canada Post it doesn't make sense. We'll see how this goes. It'll also be promoted online. It's posted on the county's website, and then I'm sure county staff have it in their rotation to promote on socials as well. So we'll see how that goes. Anybody that requests one, I guess they'll be directed to how the best they can access that. But I think for the time being, that's the best plan that we can do. I'm not sure if anybody has any concerns or feedback, but Cindy made a good point that we can kind of use this as an analysis to see, the impact of cost and the impact of delivery and see how that goes versus the way we were doing it before. So it is ready, it is out, it is there, and hopefully folks who will want to read it can get it electronically as well. And I'm not sure when that's all being posted, but look for it soon, when maybe Spencer can make a note that when it is ready, he can share that with the rest of us, and then we can also share it within our networks as well. That would be helpful as well. So I think that's all I have for the chair's update, so I'll leave it at that unless there's any questions of me. We do have an in-camera item today, so we will need a motion to go in camera, and we have so the recommendation that we have to proceed in camera is that the County of Brant O.P.P Detachment Board convene in camera to discuss Section 44(2)G information explicitly supplied in confidence to the board by Canada, a province or territory, or a Crown agency of any of them. And Acting Inspector McTaggart wants to talk to us more specifically about some work regarding the traffic management unit. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to go in camera. Mayor Bailey, thank you, and seconded by Member Brown. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we're back in open session again. We're running just slightly over time, so I appreciate everybody's time here. I don't believe there's anything else on our agenda at this point. So our next meeting is Tuesday, June 24th at 9 a.m. here in council chambers. And with that, we will adjourn today's meeting. Thank you very much.